Welcome back to our Wednesday mini episodes. We've got a guest today. So normally you're hearing from me with quick little tips and tricks, but today we've got a guest on the show that's going to talk to us about a really specific and important topic, I think, in the running space for sure. So Nick has been on the show before as a guest, talking about his first marathon experience. But yeah, just welcome back to the show. I'm looking forward to picking your brain a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about some of this because it's some deep and crazy and awesome, wonderful things stuff.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Very cool. Well, I know it's been a minute since you've been here, so yeah, let's start with just a quick little intro of yourself and some of the things you're working on.
Yeah. My name's Nick Savin. I'm a marathon coach in Chicago, Illinois, but a lot of my coaching is virtual, so based out of Chicago, but kind of working globally in that sense. I'm working on a few things this summer. My main focus is my marathon goal. It's a 2-3 year long goal. So this year, trying to just really cut down my marathon time. Looking at Quad Cities in end of September, so the border of Illinois and Iowa. I haven't signed up yet, so I just need to do that. But so that's kind of my main thing that I'm working on. But I've got a half Ironman in the middle of the summer, doing the Chicago Distance Series. So that wraps up with the Chicago Marathon. It starts this weekend with the Shamrock Shuffle, and there's a half marathon in the middle there. Outside of that, just trying to work on, feeling good and being a good person and
Yeah,
living my life. Yeah.
all the important things. Yeah, I
All the
love it.
important things. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you and I connected out for a project that you're working on where you're interviewing coaches, I think, in the space, and yeah, really just kind of highlighting like our philosophy behind coaching and some of those like things that I think you said you were doing it for a YouTube series. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Working on
very
that.
cool. So
Yeah.
that'll come out very soon. But when we were doing that interview, we were talking about like what opportunities we could have, obviously, for you to come on the show as well. And you had talked about this concept of like mindset and running, and that being something that you're very passionate about. So yeah, if you we can just kind of kick things off with like, what does this concept of mindset in running mean to you, and why is this topic so important for you?
Yeah, the a fitness journey is it's so much more than just like getting stronger, right? And it should be. It has to be to really be as rewarding as you deserve it to be. And getting further and further into marathon training and coaching and long endurance work. Um, you kind of realize that this journey that we set out on it's a really great metaphor for life in so many ways. And we've selected, if we think about marathon specifically, we've selected something that is guaranteed to be difficult. It is guaranteed to be not fun at times. But there's something incredibly rewarding in that.
Yeah.
I taught in a elementary school a few years back for 3 years. And I remember at one point thinking that like as much as I loved that job that I had, I was guaranteed to get upset at some point that day.
Sure. Sure.
Somebody was guaranteed to cry.
Yeah.
I was doing PE, I was doing third grade. Like it was going to happen every single day. But it was worth it. And marathon training is not too dissimilar. You are guaranteed to cry at some point,
At some point, yeah, for
or at
sure.
least once. And if we're just like trying to get away from that, if we're trying to feel good all the time, or if something doesn't go as wonderfully as we would love it to go, then we feel like we're failing, or it's not working, or this friction that I'm feeling is bad, and that's not productive. And it's all in the head, right? So you can have the perfect plan written out on paper, but if the way that you're thinking about it and the way that you're engaging with that is missing some kind of opportunity, then you're missing a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's just, I don't know, it's not totally worth it to me. I don't want to go through that kind of process. So
Yeah.
diving further and further into the mindset part of coaching and just running and going through this process as a coach and as a runner, as a person, yeah, it gets really exciting. It gets really terrifying at times. And I've kind of gone down these rabbit holes, and I've written a whole bunch on it. And of course, in my job, I talk about it every single day. So, and it's an evolving process, right? I don't think we'll ever get like the answer, but
Yeah.
that's kind of part of why we do it, right? The marathon is in so many ways, it's a part of the journey. So is how we engage with that. It's going to be a journey that we may never like finish, right? Trying to be a better person, trying to be stronger mentally, trying to find greater opportunities within ourselves. That may never wrap up, but that's not the point. And so,
Right.
yeah, we keep digging, we keep trying to just experiment and discover. And it's a cool place to be, but it's, it's scary, but it's scary because there's so much opportunity and reward.
Yeah, and so much transformation too. Like it is a truly transformational process to run your first marathon and marathon since then. Like I know I've learned something completely different from every single marathon that I ran. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a transformation.
Yeah.
I hear a lot on the show, like interviewing so many first marathoners and hearing so many stories. Like so many people are in this like all or nothing mindset. Like I miss a run, I can't run a marathon type of mindset. I guess like what is your thoughts on that, and how do you typically approach athletes that come to you and kind of like have that type of mindset?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody. I was trying to figure out a way to like describe this picture in my head, and I have a nearly 16-month-old right now, and I was talking to a client about missing workouts and adapting workouts. Because I've always said, like, if somebody signs up, I'm like, look, we need something that we know is going to evolve because life is going to happen, things are going to change. Absolutely nothing that we could write down on paper today that we can guarantee in like 6 weeks will be the case for a number of reasons. You may progress faster or slower. The weather might not be great, whatever. And so when we're then in the process day to day, those moments are going to come up. The workout that was planned may not happen for any reason, right? It could be poor planning. It could be just like you messed up, you made a mistake. It could be something out of your control. Who knows? But we're not, it's about the process. So we want to think about like a picture that you're going to color in. And let's take a toddler or 5-year-old or even an adult. And you're going to color it in, and you're not going to get it perfect. Some things are going to go outside the line. Some things are going to go inside the line. Some things are going to hit the line. But there's a work of art. There's something that somebody made, whether they're 2 years old or they're 25 years old or whatever. And it was real, and it meant something. And there were mistakes that were made, and there were things that were right on the dot. That's what our training in so many ways kind of should look like. Some days are going to go above and beyond. Some days are going to go way below. Some days you're going to get it right the way that it was written. And cool. By the end of it, we have that structure we were trying to create, right? Sometimes we go up, we go down, whatever. But when it's done, here is our whole picture. And if we're following that kind of the guide of that picture that we're following, even if we're not a good artist, we're going to have a picture at the end. You're going to have a marathon kind of product, if you will, at the end of it. So yeah, that might connect with some, that might not with others. But me being kind of a newish dad, I'm kind of like, oh, I love that.
Yeah, no, I love that too. It's this like idea that I always talk a lot with my athletes about, like, it's a sum of your overall like consistency. It's not nailing every single run perfectly. It's like the sum of your efforts over a really long period of time. And like we said, like that, I think that's why the marathon distance and training is so transformational for people, because it is like riding these ebbs and flows for a really long period of time and knowing how to like bounce back when something doesn't go your way. So I'm curious, like what have you looked into for maybe for yourself too? I know I'd be curious for myself, like how do you bounce back? Like how do you handle a run that doesn't go your way, and how do you approach the next one? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I was actually just listening to something recently, and I loved it. It was it's somebody that was coming back from addiction and talking about one day at a time, right? And you take these small steps, and there might be these moments where you fall back, and you got to start over, and it's going to come with guilt, and it's going to come with shame. But his sponsor, I guess, was talking to him, and he was like, listen, I need you. You're starting over again. The new plan is that you are going to be okay. In fact, you might even be happy when you mess up. You're not going to be guilty. You're not going to feel guilty. You're not going to feel shame. You're going to be okay with that. And you need to accept that now, that's going to happen. And part of that is because of the friction that we create. In some ways, there's the anticipation of I might mess up. Now, as soon as there's friction, there's resistance. And when there's resistance, things slow down. And if we're okay with missing something, then that allows us to continue to move forward effortlessly. That allows us to continue to go into the next opportunity with even more excitement. And again, we chose something, we think about marathons, that is going to be difficult. You're going to have what you feel is this idea of failure. Great, that's part of the process. So let's be okay with that. Let's welcome that. And when that occurs, we have an even greater opportunity to give even more effort and even more strength to that next step. And it is just the next step.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also just the idea that, you know what? We don't know what's coming. We can't guarantee anything. So if I had something that was written out for myself or for someone else for today and it doesn't happen, you're still here. You got better in some way. Maybe it was mentally, hey, I made a mistake and I learned a lesson. Maybe you rested, so physically you're better for tomorrow. Maybe you set out to do the workout and things weren't the way they were supposed to be, but guess what? You gave your body a stress. That's awesome. You're going to get stronger from that. So there's always an opportunity, and we look at things as very black and white, yes or no. I did it or I didn't.
Yeah.
There's no did or didn't necessarily. There is, you move forward through the day. Time has progressed. How are you stronger, either internally or externally, from whatever you did today? Great. We're going to take that strength and we're going to continue to build on that tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think that there's like, this is a lesson that I've learned for myself. Just like running multiple marathons, multiple races, even like running for a sustained period of time. I think you start to learn these lessons, but like when you're in a race and things get hard, you never think about the runs that went really well. You never, or at least I haven't. You always are thinking about the runs that went absolutely horrible. And you're like, well, if I could do that, like I can definitely do this.
Yeah.
So I think that there's, the reframing, and it's so hard to do I think for your first marathon without having a coach or somebody who's been there to guide you through that, because you don't know what you don't know. But yeah, you learn, I think, over time that like, the failures, they mean something. And they also like sometimes mean more than the runs that really, really go well. So curious like what your take has been on the runs that fail and like how those show up in a race.
So I mean, as soon as you say the word fail, it's like, okay, which direction do we go? That in and of itself is probably its own like 2-hour long lecture.
Totally.
But I think that I can connect that to, because you mentioned reframing. So let's get into reframing before we just kind of look at failing in itself. We think about consistency. We think about discipline. We think about these things that people think they need to just do. And what I've found is that it's not something you do. It's consistency and discipline are things that they occur because of something else. And if I'm like, I can't stand personally the whole like, oh, motivation is fleeting, discipline is forever, or like whatever.
Oh yeah.
There's no value in that. That doesn't actually teach anything. There's no depth. And this like Navy SEAL mentality of like just like bear down and grit and just do it. It's like that might get you somewhere for a day, but if we don't connect to the purpose of that, it's gonna end at some point.
Yeah.
And so when we think about, well, then how do I actually create discipline? How do I connect to the discipline that I want in my life without just doing every day? And there's a series of things. It could be as simple as time management. If we can plan better, it could be connecting to your values. But there's also that relationship that we have with something like failure and challenge. And I think too often what we want to do, especially if, let's say this is our first time, this is our first marathon, and we're like, all right, we're like, I got high hopes, I'm excited, and I'm going to feel good, and this is going to be great. And then there's that friction which leads to resistance. And maybe it's a fear. Maybe it's a tough workout and I don't know how I'm going to do today. Maybe it's, I'm doing this workout today and last week I did the same thing and it went the way that I would see as poorly. So now I don't know if I want to do this again. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to fail. I am a failure. Well, we're chasing the wrong thing. Yeah. We're chasing the idea of being strong. Now this might create strength within us, but we can't be chasing perfection. We can't be chasing this idea of like, I'm going to be strong when I do this. No, your fitness weakens you. I go through a workout. By the end of it, I'm weaker than I was when I started.
Yeah, sure.
So I need to be, this goes back to the idea of being okay with missing something and almost being excited about that, being happy for it. I want to chase adversity. I'm not chasing strength. I'm chasing adversity.
I love that.
And the relationship with that adversity, how I face that adversity, how I wrangle with that adversity, that's what's going to maybe lead to some strength. That's what's going to get me up in the morning because, hey, I got this tough workout, but that's the adversity that I'm getting for today.
Yeah.
How am I going to respond to that? I don't know, but I get to face it. And there was something else that I read in oh shoot, what book was it? I can't think of the book. But so this is not my original thought.
Yeah.
But to face, and I might be kind of paraphrasing a little bit, to face adversity is courage, right? Just facing it. So if we think about that, it's not about winning over adversity. It's not about, overcoming some challenge. It's not about, it's not even really about engaging in the act of trying to do that. It's the courageous part. It's facing it. It's looking at it. It's acknowledging it, right? When we sign up for a marathon, that takes courage just simply because of that. And so if I can recognize that, I might fail in the way that we think about failure. Again, this is like that totally separate thing. And I want to rephrase how we say failure, but let's use that kind of accepted terminology right now. So if I'm going to acknowledge that there's failure that I'm facing, just looking at it, laying there in my bed when I wake up in the morning to go do this workout, that is courage. There's courage that's there. That's awesome. That's empowering. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Now I can take that and I can go, okay, I am courageous because of that. And this is the adversity that I was expected to encounter. I'm going to go see what it's going to give me today.
Yeah.
Now there's no failure in the way we think about it because nothing can go wrong in that sense.
Right. You're gaining no matter what. Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about failure because I'm interested in this too.
Okay. Yeah.
As soon as I said the word, I could tell you're like, let's pick this apart. So yeah. Let's talk about failure. What does that mean? How do you like interpret it? What alternatives do you have to like using that phrase? Because I do think it's something that we're talking about black and white thinking. I do think the word failure very much fits into that like black and white thinking of what we think of it. So yeah, would love to hear more.
Okay, so a couple things. I'm all about quotes. I've heard a lot of quotes, and I'm like, I'm going to keep that. Put that in my little.
Love it.
So there's a longer quote that I just pulled up. I'll read it. But first, there's intensity, and every workout has a degree of intensity, and intensity is pretty simply put a proximity to failure. High intensity, it's close to failure. Low intensity, it's further from failure. Regardless, failure is present. It's not just really necessary, it's a part of that process. And I may have a workout today where my proximity to failure based on the intensity is so far so close. And I might do that workout and things might go differently. It's supposed to be far off, but whoa, failure was right there. Okay, well, it's a partner in this dance, and it takes two to tango kind of thing. So I need failure to be there. Sometimes, yeah, dude, you're a little close right now. Sometimes, whoa, you're way far off and further off than I thought, but I can see you and there you are. We have to acknowledge failure. We have to recognize that it is present in every single thing we do because there is some degree of intensity that's there. So that's cool. That's awesome. With that perspective, that idea, we have to embrace, we have to welcome, we have to seek out failure in some aspect. We're never running from it. We're never trying to shy away from it. We're not afraid of it. We need it. So there's that. There's also the idea that it's an illusion, right? So there are different ways we can kind of look at what this is. So there's the typical kind of accepted way that we talk about failure, and that is an illusion. We reframe it to the relationship with intensity, proximity to failure. And the quote on the illusion of failure is the one that's a little longer. But it's, I only experience the illusion of failure if I consistently believe the lie that I must be perfect to excel. And I forget the truth, which is that I'm making progress to my goal. In other words, as long as I do something, it could be so far off from what the original plan was. But if I do something, I've brought myself one step closer to my goal. I haven't failed. It's almost impossible in that sense to fail.
Yeah.
A little bit harder to like in the moment fully accept that, but we have to acknowledge that in order to even have the opportunity to catch that kind of growth.
Yeah. No, that's huge. And how does that show up? Like obviously for your athletes, I'm sure that shows up all the time. But like how does that show up for you after a run that doesn't go your way, right? How do you interpret that? How do you like digest that? You know what I mean? Like what's something tangible that people can do, after a run or after a tough workout that can help them digest that a little bit better.
Yeah. So workouts are you could take 100 different coaches. You could take 2 different coaches, you and I. We could take the same people, and we're going to give them probably very different programs.
Sure.
we're two different people. In many ways, fitness is an art form where we have our different approaches. And sure, there's like science to back some of these things up, and they're accepted and unacceptable ways of doing certain things. But in the end, we have our program, we have our design. And if we're good at what we do, we can explain why this is going to be effective. But that's your take, right? And then this is my take. And so any workout I do today is not necessarily the perfect one that I have to do. This really hit me for myself maybe like a year or two ago. I was kind of training myself through a little bit, and I gave myself a workout for that day. And I think I remember it being 2 hours because I got about an hour and 20 minutes into this workout. And I could tell like 20 minutes in that this was not going to be the way I thought. And I get an hour and 20 minutes in, and I just was like, I can't, like, I'm done. This was a failure. And I realized in that moment that I could have told myself to do an hour that day, right? Me coaching myself in that moment could have said, Nick, you have an hour workout. I went 20 minutes over. Did I go above and beyond? No, I did what I did. I did an hour and 20. It doesn't matter what was written down. And so when we have a workout that doesn't go the way that we had planned on it going, you've given your body some kind of a stress. And that stress you have to adapt to. So no matter what, if you don't get your 20-mile run, if the rest time between your intervals was 2 minutes longer than it was supposed to be, if you couldn't even finish the cool down, if the day got away from you and you didn't even do your workout, you've done something that day to move yourself forward. You either have recovered more or you've put a stress on your body to adapt further. I also tell everybody that if you are a relatively healthy adult, of course there are exceptions, but if you're a relatively healthy adult, you can complete 26.2 miles right now. Taylor, if I said walk 26.2 miles, you could do it. You'll be like, shut up. No, I'm not.
It's not gonna feel great, but
things to do. But you could complete that distance. It might hurt a lot. It might take you a long time, but you can do that. And so if we already know that from the beginning, we can complete the distance, any little thing we're doing, any little bit of strength or fitness that we build just makes that process a little bit easier. So
I think that's huge.
There's never necessarily a wrong answer. Unless
that's huge.
And then that was the wrong answer.
And then we need to deal with that. No, that's huge. Especially because I'm thinking about there's so many people, there's so many first marathoners that I've spoken to that like they feel like they're gonna, when they first start their marathon plan, or they first start this base building period, or they decide to run a marathon, like it's almost like they're thinking they're going to run 26.2 miles tomorrow, the way that they're approaching training. Like it's with so much like hesitancy and like, can I do it? Can I not do it? What's this journey going to, like the fear of the unknown, all of that. But I think it's just important to remember that like this is a process, right? Like you're not going to run 26.2 miles tomorrow. And I haven't heard it framed like that. Like, could you go out and walk 26 miles tomorrow? Yeah. And I think that puts the whole process in perspective of like, everything you're doing is forward momentum. I love that a lot. How does this show up for you personally? Like this, it sounds like this is something you're very passionate about, like the mindset side of coaching and running. What do you feel like has moved the needle most for you as you've been learning more and more about some of this stuff?
I mean, it's a constant battle. So I'm constantly learning. I constantly feel like I'm like not good enough. I'm not learning enough. I'm struggling too much. But like I'm human, just like all of us are. So I have the same struggles as everybody else. I have the same kind of mental battles. How I engage with those might be a little bit different because I'm studying this so much. But I encounter the same battles. So I mean, how does that show up for me? Give me an example, and then I'll jump into that because it's a terrifying question.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like when I'm thinking about mindset, I mentioned before that one of the biggest things that I think that like has gotten me into a good mindset with running has been that idea that like my failed runs are the ones that I think about during the race. Like that has moved the needle for me so much more than a lot of the tangible like running advice that I've gotten or that I've learned about and kind of taught to myself. It's like this reframing of this run that I just quote unquote failed or didn't complete, right? Like this is the moment that I'm going to remember when I'm at mile 18 and everything sucks and I can't think of anything else other than that run where I felt this exact same feeling and I pushed through it, or I like made the decision to pull back or to stop. Like there's power in that. And I think that that's helped me out a ton. I can think of some other things that, like, for myself personally, that have helped. Like walking breaks, I think, is a big one. Once I got over this hurdle that, like, you can walk, and if anything, it can be a strategy. And I've ran some of my best races by being smart and intentional about when I'm walking and like practicing that on my long runs and during training. That has been a huge unlock for me too. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious about, like, what are some of those little things that you feel like has really moved the needle for yourself in your journey?
The book, The Upside of Stress, that was monumental in changing shift. There were two moments in my life that changed
Yeah.
like drastically every way in which I think about and embrace and engage with stress and adversity and challenge and frustration and everything. One was a little over 10 years ago. It was just like really tough time for me. And I had this motto for the year, which was glass half full, super simple, glass half full. Right.
Yeah.
And through that, everything I was struggling with, okay, there's opportunity. There's positivity. There's something that is optimistic in this moment. Right. And then that did a lot for me. But then reading the book, The Upside of Stress, which I recommend to all my clients, I recommend to everybody. It's incredible. Super simple, super wonderful.
Yeah.
And a main thing that I took out of that, there's a lot in there. It's an easy read, but there's a lot in there in a wonderful way. The main thing I took out was that stress happens because you care about something. And so if I'm frustrated, if I feel like I failed at something, it's because I care. If I didn't care, I wouldn't care. Right. And so that I think that's probably the first thing that always comes to mind with any trouble I encounter in my marathon training, in my triathlon training, in my life. If I'm feeling negative in any way, it's because I care. There's a value that's at stake. And so if that value is at stake, it's present. That is my opportunity to connect to that value. That's my opportunity to find the growth and find the opportunity. I'm just keep using that word, the opportunity that's there.
Yeah.
So yeah, stress happens because you care about something. So if you feel like you failed something, if you feel like you're not good enough, if you feel like anything that we could label as negative, it's because you care about that and you're connecting in some way to that value.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. Yeah. I've talked about it in a couple episodes on the show, but yeah, this concept of, like, yeah, if you're disappointed in yourself, it's because you care about this goal an awful lot. And
Yeah.
that's cool. That's a really cool thing to care enough about something to be disappointed in it. And we also talk a lot about how crazy it is to feel disappointed in yourself for tackling a marathon. Like, you should never be disappointed in yourself for doing something huge for yourself like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but yeah, I love that, and I think that's probably a pretty great place for us to wrap there. Would love to kind of hear a little bit more about, just to give you some space to talk about it too, like what you're working on with this coaching project that you have coming out, and yeah, anything else that you're working on right now that you feel like the audience would benefit from.
Yeah. So I mean, like, this conversation, I think, is a great example of kind of the drive behind this little project. I'm trying to find other coaches and just talk to them about their process, and less about, like, how do you coach somebody? Like, how do you put a program together? That could be cool and that could be fun. It could be relevant. But I mentioned earlier that I'm human too. We're all human. We actually are, coach and client. We're the same in so many ways. We have our career, we have our struggles, we have our values, we have our families or our relationships. And when we go into this thing called coaching, like I said, it's really an art form. And we have to think about how we connect with other people. We have to think about how to communicate, how to engage with failure and with struggles and with challenges, because that's what this is about. And because it's an art form, everybody has their own approach. Some may be similar, some may be different. And just like in any art form, people are going to connect to a variety of things, are going to connect differently to one thing versus another. So if we as coaches can talk to each other about how we've created this world for ourselves to inspire and motivate and challenge other people, then I just think there's just so much opportunity in there. That's the key word for today, is opportunity. I think
I love it.
said that a lot.
It's got to go in the title or something.
Yeah,
That's the
something like
key.
so. Yeah, that's
Very cool.
kind of the driving force behind that little project there and it's as much for myself as it is for anybody that could be listening or watching.
Yeah. I know that I've talked about this as well in the show, but like I work with a coach myself as a coach. Like I coach people and also work with a coach.
Yeah.
And so I love like peeling the lens back, I think, so to speak, to some of these types of conversations and showing, like you said, like different perspectives, and different ways that people approach things, and just like how many different how many different approaches you can I was about to say approaches to approach, but that's a horrible sentence. But like how many different ways that you can approach a challenge, getting to the same exact result, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think is so interesting. I think it's very, very cool what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be a part of it. Very cool. Well, cool. Well, anything else? I mean, we can also end off with where people can find you, where they can find the YouTube channel and all that good stuff.
Yeah. My coaching business is Run Strength Academy, so that's pretty much where you can find me more or less anywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook is just my name, Nick Savin. There is a Run Strength Academy Facebook page, but I kind of abandoned that a long time ago. So
okay,
if you do see that, just go and buy it. Look for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I can be found. Website runstrengthacademy.com. Yeah, I think if I were to kind of leave one thing with this, it's that it's not about whether you are a runner or not. It's about the actions that you can encourage, not the label that you're trying to live up to or the standard that you're trying to prove. It's encouraging action, and so it doesn't really matter what you think you are or are not, but what can you do? What can you do today to kind of feed that lifestyle and feed that journey?
I love it. That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on again and talking to me. I think this stuff is super fascinating, and I think these types of conversations, while this one was a little bit shorter, are super, super important. So appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
Yeah, this is great. I'm not working out again, but I want to like run through a brick wall right now. So this is
let's go. I know, let's go. The opportunity is endless. We've got the endless opportunity in front of us. So
I got a quick
no, I think it's great.
So I'll just like master that.
Perfect. Put the energy to something. Yeah. Love it. Well, thanks again, Nick. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.